Before the Ashen One ever challenges gods, before the Lords of Cinder are named, before the world even reveals how broken it truly is, there is Vordt, a beast chained in frost, a knight stripped of purpose, a gatekeeper not meant to protect, but to imprison. Vordt of the Boreal Valley is often dismissed as the first obstacle of Dark Souls 3, a tutorial boss, a stepping stone on the path ahead. But in truth, Vordt is something far more important. He is the first warning this world gives you. Because Vordt is not what happens when men rebel against gods. He is what happens when they obey them too well. This is the story of a knight frozen in loyalty, of a world trapped in stagnation, and of the first tragedy you must put to rest, before the journey can truly begin. Vordt of the Boreal Valley is the first true obstacle standing in the Ashen One's path. To most players, he is remembered as a hulking beast wreathed in frost, roaring in rage beneath the high wall of Lothric. But Vordt is not simply a monster guarding a gate. He is a warning, a living testament to what this world has already become before the Ashen One ever awakens. Vordt's story is not about ambition, conquest, or even rebellion. It is a story of obedience taken to its absolute extreme, of loyalty exploited, and of a man stripped of everything that once made him human. In that sense, Vordt is not only the first boss of Dark Souls 3, he is the first tragedy. Long before Vordt became the creature we encounter, he was a knight of Irithyll of the Boreal Valley. Irithyll was once a city of cold moonlight and divine elegance, ruled not by chaos, but by rigid order. At the heart of that order stood Pontiff Sulyvahn, a man who believed not in the fire nor in the dark, but in domination through stagnation. Vordt served Sulyvahn faithfully. He was not a schemer nor a manipulator. He was a weapon, disciplined, obedient, and powerful. And it was precisely these traits that made him useful. Sulyvahn did not rule through loyalty alone. He ruled through transformation. Vordt belonged to a group known as the Outrider Knights, elite warriors reshaped through exposure to frost and Pontiff's warped sorcery. These knights were not meant to rule. They were meant to hunt. The frost they carried was not a gift. It was a leash. Frost in Dark Souls 3 is not merely cold. It is stagnation, the opposite of flame's transformative power. Fire changes things. It destroys, but it also renews. Frost preserves decay. It locks beings in a state of suffering they cannot escape. As the frost consumed them, the Outrider Knights slowly lost their minds. Their bodies grew monstrous. Their movements became feral. Yet they remained loyal, driven by instinct and conditioning rather than will. Vordt was one of the earliest and strongest among them. Vordt was not placed at the high wall of Lothric by chance. The high wall is not simply a defensive structure. It is a barrier, separating the world from the truth of its own collapse. Lothric turned inward, sealing itself off as the fire faded and the bells fell silent. Vordt's role was not to protect Lothric from invasion, it was to prevent escape. He stands between the Ashen One and the wider world, a living checkpoint controlled by Sulyvahn. No undead leaves the wall without facing the consequences of this frozen order. In this way, Vordt is less a guardian and more a warden. Despite his monstrous form, remnants of Vordt's past remain visible. His armor, once worn with pride, is now fused into his body. His movements, though savage, still resemble knightly charges and disciplined attacks. This is not a creature born of chaos. This is a man who was reshaped, not destroyed. When Vordt enters his second phase, the frost overtakes him completely. He abandons restraint, charging wildly, roaring not in triumph, but in pain. It is the moment where what remains of his humanity finally loses the battle. The frost wins. Vordt's fate is not unique. The dancer of the Boreal Valley suffers the same corruption. Another knight transformed, exiled, and discarded. Other outrider knights are scattered throughout the world, sent far from Irithyll once their minds began to fracture. This was Sulyvahnn's system. Use them, break them, cast them aside. Vordt simply lasted longer than most. The Age of Fire was never kind, but it allowed change. Kingdoms rose and fell. Heroes failed and were replaced. The cycle continued. Sulyvahnn's frost represents something far worse, an age without cycles. In freezing his knights, he froze the world itself. No rebirth, no succession, only endless, preserved decay. Vordt embodies that philosophy perfectly. He does not rule, he does not choose, he does not hope, he endures. When the Ashen One strikes Vordt down, it is not a victory in the traditional sense. Nothing is saved, no kingdom restored. But something important happens. The chain breaks. For the first time in who knows how long, Vordt is no longer bound by frost, by command, or by loyalty twisted into torture. His soul, once shackled, is finally free. In death, Vordt finds the mercy he was never granted in life. Vordt of the Boreal Valley is not remembered because he is difficult. He is remembered because he is honest. He shows us what Dark Souls 3 truly is. Not a world on the brink of collapse, but one that has already fallen, held together by frozen corpses and false order. And before the Ashen One can challenge gods, kings, or lords of cinder, they must first pass through the gate guarded by a man who lost everything simply by obeying. Vordt is the first lesson Dark Souls 3 teaches. Sometimes, the greatest tragedy is not rebellion, but loyalty.